All right, today is going to be the second installment of Moderate Voices, and it is tax season, so we're going to primarily, for the next 4 months, there's going to be a lot of conversation about taxes. Today, I have chosen to kind of pick the Earned Income Credit, or as it is more commonly known, EITC, Earned Income Tax Credit. Most people, when they talk about it, kind of drop the T. So, EIC, EITC, Earned Income Credit. These are all terms used to describe a particular type of tax credit on returns, primarily for the lower income individuals. I personally don't think it's accomplishing its job. And the other thing that I was kind of thinking about, prepping for this particular episode is, how are we going to judge these things? And I think we should be using 3 criteria.
3? Okay.
3. Let's do it European style.
European 3? Okay, we do
European 3.
Sure.
One.
But that's 3 too. We could do it as a Vulcan.
No, that's actually 4 because you have 4 fingers up. Just because.
No, there are 3 things.
But one is we put in what is its stated function. Earned Income Credit, as originally came out, has a stated function. Different credits we look at are going to have stated functions. So what is its stated function, and is that really necessary in our current society? Has society changed, and the credit hasn't really adapted? 2, how open to abuse is the program or the option or whatever it is we're talking about. And then, because I'm going to separate out abuse and fraud, how open to fraud is the credit? And I'm taking abuse and fraud as different things. Abuse is a family that qualifies for everything, and then once they realize they qualify for everything, make sure that they qualify, but actually live the way the credit says they should to get maximum benefit. That's abuse, not fraud. Because as we look at, our illustrious leader, he didn't commit tax fraud, but he did abuse the tax code. But everything he did was legal, just abusive. And then fraud is out and out. You have you borrow somebody's kid to qualify for more. Or people steal your identity just to get the Earned Income Credit. That is fraud. Actual lying, actual misrepresentation. So if we separate those 2, abuse and fraud, that gives us kind of 3 criteria to look at all the different things we do. 1, is whatever program we're talking about achieving its goal? 2,
Right.
Is it achieving its goal with minimal abuse, or is it creating a situation where it's changing society, creating abusive people? Basically, is it changing society in a negative way because of abuse of the program? And then 3, how open to fraud is it? Does it have good checks and balances against fraud? I personally don't think EIC accomplishes its goal on any of these 3 criteria. Now, I need to kind of give you a general, I've kind of told you, but the audience, I need to kind of give you a little bit of a background. Those of you who are lower income probably know what EIC is. Those of you who are probably higher income think you know what EIC is, but you may or may not. Earned Income Credit was, you looked it up last time we were talking, created back in the 70s, and it was designed to offset lower income people paying their FICA tax, which is Social Security and Medicare tax, which everybody who has a wage pays. The employer holds it out. It was a way to basically offset the taxes that they were holding, so that these lower income families had no tax withholdings. But since you can't undo it during the withholding period, at the end of the year, when you kind of manage things up, it's where you're supposed to get the taxes back. By the way, I did not set the time, so this one may be a little bit long because I seem to be a little long-winded right now.
Keep a track. We're at 5 minutes right now. It's not too bad.
So earned income credit is, first of all, you have to have what the IRS considers earned income. So these people you're hearing about who are on Social Security, who are on other types of unearned income credit, such as investments, retirement, gifts from family, they are not getting this credit. The credit is zero for them. The three types of earned income that we are discussing is basically wages. Everybody understands the W-2, and that includes tips that show up on your W-2. Non-taxed combat pay, because most earned income is taxed. The one exception to that is combat pay. You can elect to not tax it. Well, actually, I don't know who would elect to tax it. But it still qualifies as earned income, which out of everybody, I would say they are earning their income.
That's true. That's very true.
Non-taxed combat pay, and then self-employment income, or Schedule C income. Schedule F also counts as farming. Schedule C and Schedule F are kind of the self-employment income. Farming has some special rules, so they have their own schedule, but it's basically the same form. The publication I was reading, Ministry Housing Allowance, does count for earned income because it does go in their Schedule C, because they have to do a schedule. Ministers have to do a Schedule C. And since it does go in as income there, it does count. And then the third general way, or the third general thing that they use, is statutory employees, which basically they're kind of a hybrid of self-employed versus W-2. They do get a W-2, but because they're statutory employees, they're more self-employed. So they have expenses and they have all this that they have to, account for. But since they're getting a W-2, the actual company pays for FICA tax.
Okay.
So those are the three different types of earned income. There are other types of earned income: Social Security benefits, SSI benefits, unemployment benefits. All of those benefits, you don't get earned income credit. So if you hear somebody who's sitting at home drawing unemployment, well, they ain't getting a big tax refund unless they are lying. So this goes to, category 3, fraud. Now I did add, I'm not going to screenshot it because it will interfere with things, but basically I'm going to open up my little spreadsheet, and I'll try to put my spreadsheet in the comments of the video as soon as I figure out how to do that. Because remember, this is a learning process for us as well. Family 1, just to give you a general idea, I'm going to say they have an income of $3,000. Because when I discuss EIC, in my own mind, I get EIC and additional child tax credit, which is the other refundable credit. I lump them together. I shouldn't, but I do. Now, what's funny, the IRS does the same thing. This year, if you get EIC or ACTC, basically earned income credit or additional child tax credit, you have to wait until February the 15th to get your tax refund this year. It's a new delay that they put in. I'm sure it's to try to cut down on fraud, because EIC has lots of issue with fraud and abuse. But my family 1, I kind of have 6 families, kind of showing the difference of how EIC works. They have an income of $3,000. So, of course, once you go through deductions and exemptions, they have no taxable income. For Now, all of these families have 2 parents and 3 children. They qualify for EIC of $1,361. For additional child tax credit, they qualify for 0, because for the additional child tax credit, you have to make, basically you get 15% of everything above $3,000. Since
Okay.
they have $3,000, they get 0. So they get $1,361. I don't want to call it a refund because it's not a refund. And this is where I have issues. It's not a refund. It's a stipend. It's a government benefit. They get $1,361 of government benefits through their taxes. Their FICA tax total for $3,000 would have been $230.
So, to clarify here, so they get about $1,000 more than their FICA tax?
They get about $1,000 more than their FICA tax. And for today's episode, I'm not going to discuss the whole food stamp issue. They
Right.
are going to qualify for food stamps. And they're obviously receiving assistance somewhere. They're living at home.
Yeah.
They're they're
$3,000.
getting assistance. They have reduced housing from the federal government. They could be getting assistance that way. But we're going to ignore all those other benefits, and we're just going to focus on the tax portion today. Family 2, I have that they're going to make $23,749. Now, Family 2 and Family 3 are going to have the same income, but there's going to be one major difference. Family 3 has earned income. They have a job they go to. They may not like it. They probably don't like it, but they do have a job. Family 2 gets their benefits through, let's say, investments. Well, no, it can't be investments, because if it's $3,400 of investment income, you don't qualify for it either. But let's say, SSI. They're both disabled. So they're
Okay.
receiving Social Security. It's not Social Security. It's SSI and SSN are actually different benefits.
Right.
But
Let's assume for the
basically,
basic thing to actually say the parents are getting full disability.
yeah. Family 2 gets $23,749 of income. Their taxable income will be 0. EIC will be 0. Additional child tax credit will be 0. Their government benefit will be 0.
Because they're actually getting the
Because-
government benefit of $23,000
Yes.
the way this is set up.
They are that's not necessarily how the government looks at it. They look at it purely as it's not earned income. You don't qualify for these credits.
Okay.
You have to earn your income. And I stated before the 3 ways you earn your income.
Right.
Family 3, same amount of money, same amount of taxable income, there's 0, but they're going to qualify for EIC of $6,269, additional child tax credit of $3,000, so they're going to get a refund of $9,269. That is the maximum benefit for these 2 credits that you can get.
Okay.
Because as soon as they make one more dollar, they start losing EIC. And you notice Family 1 made a whole lot less, but got less money. So it is a bell curve. Well, actually, it goes up, plateaus out for about $10,000, and then gradually goes back down. Family 4 is $53,000, which is basically when you lose all your EIC. That's the top end for EIC for a family of 5. Additional child, they will have taxable income of $20,655. So their tax is $2,179. So they have a child tax credit of $2,179, making their tax 0. Now their benefit for the additional child tax credit is $821, which if you add 2,179 and 821 together, you get 3,000. They are getting the same benefit on their 3 kids as Family 3.
Okay.
It's just because of how the taxes are done, the IRS splits it up. They take their tax liability to zero first, then you get the additional. So they get $821 of earned income, and their $821 would be the same as family 3. It is a government benefit. It's not a refund.
Right.
It's not money they're getting back. You can look at it. You can look at family 4 that it is money that they're getting back. They're basically getting their FICA back.
Right.
That is because they paid $4,090 in FICA tax, and they're only getting a tax refund of $821. So you can look at family 4 as it is a refund. Family 5, I went ahead, is $58,999. They would have a taxable income of $26,149. Their tax would be $2,996. So they would get $4 back. And I kind of put them in is they make one more dollar, and when it comes to their tax return, they're going to owe $6.
Okay.
That family 5 is basically the break even. That's how much money you can make and not pay anything.
So say that, how much do they make again in a year?
$58,999. Now, when the Democrats talk about it or the liberals talk about it, they're going to focus on the fact that this family is paying taxes. They're probably paying state taxes, maybe, depending on what state they're paying a sales tax. They are paying $4,510 in FICA tax.
Right. So they are paying taxes.
So they are paying taxes. The government is actually making money off of this. And that's the other reason the tax code is so complicated, is you have so many different organizations and levels that have their hand in the pie that understanding it is a little difficult. Now, tax family 6, $92,000. 2 people, dual income household, it's possible to get there with just high school educations. And, it could be that one guy's working in the oil field. Trust me, those people are not well educated. There's something. I couldn't do the job.
Fair enough. That is a tough job. You're right.
They are some tough people. Sometimes, some of the jobs are tough. Some of the jobs, they say, is the easiest out there. You just, of course, when the well blows,
Yeah.
The risk of the oil field, that's part of the issue that I would have issues with. Kind of like I could never do a logging, the most dangerous job in America.
Hey, chopping off limbs. But they make $92,000, right?
But $92,000, so their taxable income is going to be $59,150. Their tax is going to be $7,954. The child tax credit, they're going to get the full benefit as everybody else has of $3,000. So their tax liability is going to be $4,954, plus they're going to pay $7,033 in FICA tax. So it's basically going to work out to where they're paying right around $12,000 in taxes.
Okay. Those are our families, or do you have one more?
No, those are the 6 different kind of families, and I picked the same nuclear group, 2 parents together. I'm not specifying same sex or not, but 2 legally recognized parents that are married,
and
3 children. It doesn't matter if they're adopted, foster care, placed, brother's child that, brother passed away. Basically, 2 parents, 3 children recognized by the IRS.
Okay.
How you get there, many, many options.
So let's run down. We got people making $3,000 a year. Clearly, so we got $3,000 a year. 2 families making the same amount, just where the source of the money coming from was different. That was $23,000, and the number to be at the cutoff point, right? $759 or something like that.
$23,749 maximum money you can make to get maximum benefit.
Okay, and it's depending on where they come from. Then we had the right at break-even point, which was basically 52,000.
53,500. This isn't break-even point. This is $1 more than you get EIC.
Okay.
So basically, that is where you lose your EIC. The break-even point for these refundable credits is basically 59,000.
Okay.
59,000, you would owe a little bit. 58,999, you get $4 back.
Okay. And then you had the top end family at $92,000 just to show that they have to pay money in, right?
Yeah.
They need no credit whatsoever, and
They
they're paying.
no credit. They owe everywhere. Basically, that's where you start hitting the families that owe. And since we're kind of focusing on what I would consider the poor people's credit because they're refundable,
Right.
non-refundable, and we will do an episode where we talk about rich man's credits. But right now we're talking about the lower income credit, the earned income, and the additional child tax credit.
We really only don't need to concentrate on the 92 there. Is just kind of like a reference point.
Yeah,
in a way.
the 92,000 is kind of a reference point to give the outlier, kind of like the 3,000 is kind of a reference point.
Okay, get your
it's people who it's the comment that I hear from people. They made no money. How are they getting a tax return? Well, that's inaccurate. If they made no money, they're getting no tax return. They had to have earned income to be getting a refund.
So at this point, we've kind of established the problem, or at least established what earned income credit is.
This is
about.
I've established the facts. Now we discuss our opinions.
We could have a two-part. This could be a two-part episode because that's at 20 minutes. For our explanation, was 20 minutes long.
Let's go ahead and record.
No, we're going to keep going. I'm just saying you may want to post it in two parts.
Okay.
Okay. You can cut that part out. Hopefully.
Now.
All right.
I'm going to take the conservative viewpoint, and I'm going to discuss the 3 points I discussed earlier. One, what is the purpose of this refund? Or what is the purpose? Does it accomplish it? 2, is it abused? How many people abuse it? Is it easy to abuse? And then 3, how open to a fraud is it? So 1, let's discuss the purpose. Yeah. I think the listed purpose when it was originally created, we can't go off of anymore.
Now remember, when I looked that up, there was actually a double-sided thing to this purpose. It was essentially passed to cover FICA. But there was another slight part about it we may talk about another time, is where the idea at the time in the 70s when this was going on, there was a big push for negative income tax, where the federal government paid people money when they didn't make enough. That was something people didn't want. So there was a pushback, and so this was a compromise type situation. And then they decided, well, we won't go all the way to that. We'll just cover the FICA tax. And even when they passed it, the amount of money they had established originally was more than the average FICA tax was. That's important. I wanted to stress that. It was like $3,000 or something like that, or $1,000 was the credit, which FICA for that level was like, at that time, was maybe like $400 to $600, something like that. So even at the time, it was even more than FICA was.
So what is the purpose?
So the purpose was it was passed under the premise of paying for FICA, but since it was already originally, I'm going to say more than FICA, the purpose was as a supplemental income for low-income families.
To accomplish what?
To be what a negative income tax would accomplish, which would be to have a minimum level of income for everyone across the board.
Okay, on that alone, I don't think it accomplishes its.
I'm establishing when I read. I just wanted to establish what I got from it. The original premise was essentially. If you talk about a negative,
that is the original premise, and I understand that. It's been what, 40, 50, nearly 50 years. It's changed.
There's been 2 major changes to it, or 3. And all they really did was readjust how much it gave back. There was never any discussion of making it go away. It's only been increased for inflation. So you could almost look at. I could break it down and do the math. At some point, if we want to, on another, if somebody in a comment wants us to do that. I imagine the percentages about how much over FICA it is now for the level that it was supposed to be targeting.
It's adjusted for inflation now.
Yeah, well, but what I'm saying is adjusted for inflation so that they still make X or close to the same percentage more than FICA, so that they actually supplement. When you're talking about, they're getting money.
Yeah, they're getting.
Right.
It is a government benefit. And,
it is a government
honestly,
benefit.
If we would change it from refund to government benefit, I think I'd be okay with it.
My only thing on that is I think what the mechanism is, as you discussed when you first set it up, they couldn't stop taking the FICA out.
Because how they set up FICA, you don't know. So FICA is just a flat percentage of earned income. So
the only real mechanism to make up for it at the simplest, and then a lot of times simple roads lead to the worst place. The simplest and most expedient route was just to put it into a way to basically give it back at the same time you would get back your tax refund. So it's labeled and it's lumped in with a refund, even though
I'm thinking we're going to have to put a pin in one. What's its purpose? Because I don't think its purpose.
Well,
because the IRS has a 38-page on the rules, how to do it, who qualifies, who doesn't qualify, how you qualify, how you report it. But you know what they don't have? A snippet of what it's for.
Well, that we've talked about what it essentially is for. You can read about when it was talked about. So, from your perspective,
is it for the children? Is it for the parents? Is it for
no? Because a single person is eligible for it. So it's not for
a single person. A single person can get a max benefit of $461.
Yes, that is correct.
They got to make so little that it's not even funny.
But they can still make it.
They can still make it, but at that amount, you can. Okay, if we're giving people who make $6,000, $400 of a benefit, that basically is offsetting their FICA tax.
And you could look at it perhaps when they were gauging it. That's what they did.
I could look at it as it's offsetting their FICA tax. Should we really be going to people who make $6,000, $10,000 a year and are trying to live, and say, "Oh, by the way, this person over here, yeah, you need to pay for them."
And as you stressed, they're very, we'll talk about abuse and fraud. It's supposed to be only on earned income, so technically that person's actually doing something to make that little.
They are doing something. I mean, you're kind of looking like the sunshine industry people.
Yeah.
They live in a group home, but they work. It's to
from a conservative
having a job, having a purpose, I've told you before, if I was rich, I would probably still have a job.
Yeah.
And it's not for, at that point, it's for the structure. It is for, now, would I have the same job? Probably not. But it is for the structure, it's for the purpose, it's for the benefit of doing something.
That's why rich people go on cruises. Every day is planned.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's something happening at a certain time every day, so they can go, oh, I'm going to go do this. That's why rich old people go on cruises all the time.
It's structure. And they probably got rich and old because they were working so much, and they like that.
Or they inherited one or the other. But let's get back to the purpose. All right, so conservative viewpoint, a purpose of earned income credit, you don't see one.
No.
You never saw one.
I see it. I just don't know if it's accomplishing its goal.
So what is the purpose? What do you think the purpose of the earned income tax credit is?
And that is my problem. Actually articulating what its current purpose is, in my opinion, is hard to do, because what it was set up to do, what it's currently trying to do, I'm not entirely. What it is doing now is it is trying to give families money so that the children don't suffer.
Okay. So you look at it as
I would group the additional child tax credit and the earned income credit together. It's trying to give low income families that have children money so that they can take care of these children. So when these children grow up and graduate, hopefully, they can break the cycle of poverty.
That would be a respectable decision. I think it has morphed into that more.
I would love to say that that is the purpose of the credit. If that's the purpose of the credit, it's not working.
Well, we'll get to that. And I kind of agree. I think that it's probably the closest approximation to the purpose of the credit in today's world. It has morphed into a way over the years of supplementing people's income and my perspective and a liberal point of view is I always look at things, and I'm a little more liberal in this sense. I think there should be a minimum level of living. I really do. And I think it's my response. I actually kind of look at it. It's a way that's been structured. It's been maybe was how it's been to like assist or to make that more feasible a possibility. Now, is it working as intended? You think no, because you've done. So why do you think it's not working as intended?
Okay, I think it's not working as intended is because, one, it is not offering the benefits to the children. Because let's face it, what breaks the cycle of poverty isn't giving them money at that age to their families who probably are not necessarily spending it wisely and spending it on the children to begin with. It's education. If they're low income, even if we're basically okay, articulate my thoughts. That is
will be key.
And this is why we usually do a little bit of a conversation before so that we can get the thoughts together. I don't think it's working for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think the people who are in poverty are 80% likely to be in poverty.
Okay.
There's a number out there. I would have to look it up.
Well,
I don't have it on
again,
the top of my head.
Let's go back to your stated purpose again. You've changed what your original purpose was for it to be, to some extent, from what I think. You originally said it was supposed to be a purpose was to help people just maintain a life so that their children have a chance to get out. So you've changed it slightly the way you're interpreting now.
No, I'm not. What I said is I think the purpose of it is to give families with children income so that they can help raise those children, so those children will get food, those children will have access to resources, so that family can take care of those children in an effort to break the cycle of poverty. In other words, I don't like the fact that EIC, you're looking at EIC as a maintenance program. I don't like EIC as a maintenance program.
Let's go to something else. And let's go to something a little critical here between a conservative viewpoint, yours, and a more liberal viewpoint of mine. I feel maintenance programs, if there isn't a maintenance program, then things get worse.
But here's the thing. I don't know if I necessarily would disagree with a maintenance program. I just don't want it ran through the IRS.
Now, there's a situation.
The issue that I hear from people who get EIC, they think they earned it. They think they're entitled to it. They don't understand this. And this is going to make me sound like a bit of a jerk, but to some extent, if you're living off the government, I want you to know you're living off the government.
That is a very typical conservative viewpoint. I like this. We're getting into the conservative liberal thing.
So that you have a little bit of a emphasis, a little bit of a, because you've mentioned New Zealand that have a base income, and as people have gotten Americanized and gotten lazy and are starting to abuse the system.
Well, I've experienced my parents talking to somebody.
It comes down to motivation. You're just going to take care of everybody. Conservative viewpoint, we want people to be motivated to take care of themselves.
Well, I think there's a level of interesting point. They're talking about the New Zealand case where they have people not working and making the money. And then you ask the individuals in question. You're like, okay, they were complaining about a little bit, but at the same time, it's like, what would you change? And they don't have an answer because they don't want to give back. They like the way things are.
Well, we're going to have the same problem. Because it's going to come to EIC. What are you going to change? I don't know what. The only thing I really want to change is instead of refund, government benefit. Because the families who are getting this money, you take it away from them, their kids are going to starve. You
So,
take it
okay,
away
so
from them,
I
they're
think
not going to be able to get a car to keep their earned income, to keep their job.
trying to move the conversation on a little bit because of time constraints. I think we can agree to some extent that the purpose has changed, that it's not necessarily. I will agree that I don't particularly care for it in the way it's presented. I agree with you on that. I don't think that coming through the IRS system is necessarily the right way for this to happen. And I discuss it for a completely different reason. I don't like giving them a big lump sum of money. I'd rather them get that money spread out over the entire 12-month cycle because they'll probably use it. They won't necessarily use it wiser, but there's less chance of them using it poorly. When you get a $7,000 check or a $6,000 check,
it's tempting to go buy a TV.
Yeah, you're gonna, you're gonna go
don't
waste.
spend it on rent. You don't spend it on your monthly utilities. You don't
You
spend
don't
it
take
on
that
monthly
check
food.
and put it in a savings account or into something to to use the way you should.
What they do is they get it earlier from these tax preparation companies, and they spend fees, and then they cash the check and they spend fees.
And they actually
the money doesn't all go to them. It goes to the banks, the check cashing companies,
Right.
the
Exactly.
preparation companies.
So on your aspect of trying to get it away from the IRS and that it's not serving its purpose in that sense, I agree. All right, let's move on to.
I would prefer it to be to increase the SNAP program and to increase the TANF program.
I agree.
Do away with the EIC program.
I think there's other possible places that it could accomplish this minimal level of living without doing it in this fashion. You could convince me of different ways to do it where that amount of money, it's not very significant in some ways, could be distributed in a way that's much more useful to
people who are qualifying for this. The 58,000 people, they're probably not qualifying for benefits. Actually, I think it's somewhere around 30,000 you start losing benefits. But what I would like to say, but let's look at our other 2 points. Abuse. Yeah. It is rampant with abuse. And it's not necessarily rampant with abuse with the taxpayer. It's rampant with abuse for companies who want their share of the taxpayer's EIC.
Well, you discussed your tax preparers, your H&R Blocks, people like that.
Let's not name names.
But I mean, I'm just talking about your various different all the different tax preparer places, the Liberty people with the signs up. This is the people where they make money off of, because one, those people go in and pay them $50 to $100 to do their taxes, then they get their tax return early.
It's $230, $300 to do an EIC credit because EIC has so many issues of fraud that you're increasing your chances of auditing.
So they make a lot of money on that. Then they're like, so now you want your money early? We'll just take a cut when you get it later.
And I will admit, when I worked in a tax office, all the tax preparers, we told people, you will get more money if you can wait. And and talking to my son and talking to them and the people they talk to, it's how many people go in and spend money. Yeah, it's interest-free loan, but it is a loan. There are fees. It's not a fee-free loan.
And I personally think, in your terms of abuse that you're talking about, that's the level of abuse that is where it's rampant and really negative. Yes,
so
the other version of abuse that you have people who feel no energy to, because let's look at the $23,000 family, or that family 3.
Yeah.
They actually make over $30,000 a year, or around $30,000 a year once you factor in the credit they get, because they actually never paid anything in. Right?
Yeah.
So that you could actually add and say they made $30-some thousand.
And then because of their $23,000, they qualify for other benefits. What
Right.
motivation do they have to work twice as hard to make the same amount of money?
And that is an excellent point, and it's something that you can look at. And this is the downside to my idea of I think there should be a minimal level of living, and because I'm a little altruistic, people will say naive, but at the same time, I actually think most people are decent, but that's not true. There are people who are going to just hang around and be like, I can just live like this. And the thing is, I look at it, well, their motivation should be, it's not the best life. It's not. How do they get
this life? But they don't have access to resources to easily improve their life. The amount of work they would have to do to jump up, it's
now that
abstract.
is
In their
the problem.
opinion, it's abstract because they have to be able to see something 2-3 years in the future and understand the thing that they're going to have to do, and that's not easy. I mean, I will agree to pull yourself up is not easy. And
it's not even.
Where's the program to help them do that? This program doesn't help them better themselves. It helps them exist as they are.
It creates a social net to make sure that people in your world. And this is the constraint between a liberal. I feel there should be a minimum. Because if we as a people don't, or we as a society don't make sure that people don't fall.
And here's the thing. I'm not disagreeing with the minimum. I'm not disagreeing with assisted housing, SNAP, all these other programs that essentially create a minimum that, yes, you will. Because I've mentioned to you before, I'm not necessarily big about housing because I think maybe we should have group housing. But yeah, we should have a minimum. And food, people should be fed. Now,
and I think
whether or not they should be fed a nutritious diet and made
and then there's this level of where people assume that money is where you get this equality or this level that you can bounce up from, but it's more opportunity.
We're both agreeing that this thing is rampant with abuse.
In ways that
you're saying abuse on one side, I'm saying abuse
the
on the other side.
actually I don't consider the other thing necessarily abuse of the system, but it doesn't make the people want to. You're right. There is a large group of people who, because of the setup, they have no impetus to improve themselves. That can be looked at as abuse. And then lastly, fraud. I'm assuming that there's lots of ways to fraud the system here, right?
There's lots of ways to fraud the system. Borrow a kid. I know self-employed people who know exactly the number that maximizes their benefits, and that's how much money they earn.
Even though that's how much money they earn?
I don't know. I haven't investigated to know, but I bet you there's a lot of people who are that way. I know that stealing all these people who, hey, they steal my identity. I don't know. Yeah, they want to steal your identity. You didn't make much because they can then report that you made that amount of money. The reason the IRS every year that I have seen have had to put in additional steps to stop fraud, because this is the biggest issue that they have. And we can once again look up numbers, but they're quoting billions that they think may have been given away in error.
It is a pretty easy way. I definitely agree that the way it is currently set up is very easy to fraud.
Because, let's face it, you go steal somebody's identity, you file before and that's the thing. The reason, that might be part of the reason they're delaying the filing till February the 15th, is the way it used to be done is people would go steal their Social Security numbers, find 3 kids, and go in, and then file a return, get it mailed to them, get the $10,000. You're talking 2 weeks worth of work. You do that 5-6 times and disappear.
Yeah.
But now you're delaying, because these people who are getting these refunds, they are the early filers. They're the people who are filing. Now they're going to wait till the 15th. The people who should file should be able to file, and if it gets rejected as already filed, then the IRS can put a hold on both.
Yeah.
So, in other words, this is rampant with fraud. Now, they are trying to stop it. I don't know if they're going to succeed. I personally think criminals are a whole lot smarter than people give them credit for.
It's not well, people give them a lot of credit. I think sometimes they give them too much credit. They're a lot more flexible they're just a lot quicker to take advantage of a system. They don't have as many things to deal with.
So I'm going to wrap up, and I'm going to say on the 3 points how I judge it, the 3 points. Does it accomplish its purpose? If you're saying it's creating a minimum for the kids, I will say yes to some extent.
Let's give it like an A, B. Let's give it a letter grade. Give it a letter grade like you're giving a class.
A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay.
No, just A.
Does it accomplish its purpose? I'm going to go B because I think its purpose should be more than what it is.
Okay.
It does give families with kids money so that the kids aren't starving. The kids can go to the hospital because they're usually going to be on sooner care. It does help out low-income families, and these low-income families have kids, have problems.
So you actually rate it as high as a B? You don't think it's just C for average?
Its purpose is to help low-income families take care of their kids.
Okay.
It's doing its job.
I fall in the B category as well. I think that
just because I don't like it doesn't mean I necessarily disagree with it.
Well, with its stated purpose, there might be a better way to go. That's what our overall grade.
I think the issue with abuse and fraud is where I'm because
this is what you average your grade. So you giving it a B, I agree. I think it's a B. It's definitely not an A on establishing its purpose because it's kind of muddied. The purpose is muddied, as we discussed. It's difficult to really nail down the purpose.
I don't think it accomplishes
the purpose.
And more importantly, the people who are using it, it's difficult to nail down the purpose. SNAP benefits, they know this is food. So if they go out and gamble on it or buy cigarettes, the person using it knows they're abusing it.
Well, my problem with why I don't give it an A for establishing has more to do with the fact they get it back in a lump sum. I don't like that because that's easy for it not to actually fully accomplish the stated goal.
It's easy for the person getting it back to pay all those fees and not understand how much money they're losing.
They're losing, yes. Now, let's go on. I'll start the next one. Okay, so on abuse, I definitely, so A being it doesn't have any chance to be abused at all. Okay, we'll go with this as scale, all right? It's definitely a D. I mean, it's a D. I'm liberal, but I'm abuse on like people take advantage of these people in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And on the flip side, that one I kind of agree that it is abused by people who aren't willing to try anymore. That's not as big a deal to me. I think it's a D mainly because the fees
money,
and stuff.
The money isn't going to the children; it's going to the companies, right. And let's face it. In my opinion, as I stated before, it's to go to the family. It is to go to the kids to try to let them be, because a well-fed, well-rested child who knows where he's living. Because you kind of have to agree with this. If the families I was discussing, both parents live in the household, all three children live in the household, that child, if it's well-fed and going to school, it might actually break the cycle of.
There's a very strong...
because it knows where it's going.
Big child,
I'm using a general neutral pronoun. It knows where it's going to stay that night.
Yes, that's huge.
The question of, when I go home, is a DHS officer going to be taking me away?
And the child will know that they're going to go home and have actually be able to eat something. That's huge. But yes, abuse. It's a D for you on abuse.
I'm giving it an F.
Fair enough. I mean, because you also see I don't see as much negative. I'm a little bit. This is my little sense of the individuals receiving and abusing as strongly as you do. But I can understand why you would give it an F. So, all right, so you give it an F for that. What about fraud? I think we're both on an F here. I think.
Yeah, we're both on an F on fraud.
Because if they're having to add stuff every year.
Fraud is so bad. Every year the IRS has changed something to make it harder to commit fraud. I don't know of very many other programs where every year they're going, we failed last year. Let's see if we can do better this year.
So, I mean, overall then, let's see, I've got B, D, F. If you average that together, that's a D.
I got B, F, F. And I'm being generous with my B. I'm
you are.
Points for
your overall, your average form is definitely an F, I think. I think you're giving it an F for the program. So, we both think that the idea fails. Or, I mean, D is passing if it's not in your degree.
It's not that we both think
you're getting credit.
The whole idea is you have an idea. Ideas are wonderful. You have implementation. If your idea is wonderful and your implementation sucks,
Well, that's just we're talking about earned income credit as it is. I think that we can both agree. Sadly, it doesn't do. I mean, we gave it an F. All right, it's failing. All right.
well, I gave it an F. I was expecting to. Actually, I was not expecting to give it an F. I was expecting to give it a D. I was expecting you to give it a C.
No, because I actually don't like its implementation. I think I'm a very big person about this. That the idea of having the social, the net, that extra $9,000 for those people at $23,000 level to parents with 2-3 kids, I have no trouble assisting people like that. I think it's good. I would like to see it done and this program doesn't do it well. It doesn't do it well at all. And so what I would like, I actually agree. I think we should just scrap it. Take those, but not get rid of the funds. This is the important thing. However much those funds are, they don't go sucked over here. They're still allotted for this purpose. They're just repurposed. Because let's be honest, the funds for this.
What you're discussing is the issue of basically going through the DHS or Department of Human Service, or going through the SNAP program, or going through some other program. The reason some people like it is because it's through the IRS. Administration cost is relatively low.
That's true.
If you go through DHS, and then you have, people have to qualify.
Disappears. A lot of the pool of money we've generated. Then this is another argument that why liberals feel the federal government might be better to administer programs of this type than state governments, because
no, the issue is with earned income credit right now, there is no oversight. The only oversight the IRS does is fraud.
Well, and it's just a built-in way to give people money. I don't know. I think that there's a better way. I would actually, instead of putting it, I honestly, personally, would, this is like an impossibility, but I would like to just see it basically turned into an extra $200 a month they get as a check.
There used to be a program, Advanced EIC, which is kind of what you're discussing. What it did, it was scrapped for many reasons. But it comes down to administrative costs.
Yes.
What Advanced EIC is basically, they got a bonus on their check. They would get an additional $200. The employer was having to do it, add the money, and and at the end of the year, if you don't quite qualify for as much EIC, you can end up owing. And once you get in the hole with the IRS,
it's a nightmare. It is a nightmare situation. That's why I know that's not really. Notice I said I would like that. I didn't think that was feasible. A more feasible use or attempt to try to have this money help is the SNAP program, is housing.
Well, one thing we could do is, if this is designed to offset Social Security and FICA, if this is designed to offset FICA tax, if you are a certain filing status, don't withhold those taxes.
That would for a lot of people be an extra 50 to 150, depending.
The medium family that we were talking about, that we can see maybe living, the 23,000, that'd be $1,800 a year, spread out every paycheck.
I mean, is it as much as they were getting before? But it still would be $1,800 extra bucks that you get spread out. I mean, that's almost $100, $200. That's a week's worth of food if you're being really frugal. I mean, I know that's being super frugal, but it's a half month or something like that. We can put it that way.
That's what, $150 a month.
Yeah.
Well, I mean.
But the idea is that I think that would be a better way of doing it, in the sense of accomplishing the goal.
Because the goal, I guess that's the other thing, is my idea of what the goal should be, and your idea of what the goal should be is a little different.
Yes.
My goal, you fully embrace the idea that it's a maintenance program. You fully understand that when the kid graduates from high school, if they graduate, they're going to have kids of their own, and they're going to be right back in the same boat.
I would actually go about 85% of the time, kids from families such as these in the $23,000 range. Okay, a family three version. 85% are going to fall right back into the same thing.
Yeah, and you're perfectly okay with that.
Well, because I'm not okay with that. The reality is that that's the reality.
And I think the program, there should be more emphasis in the program itself. Now, how to accomplish
lower that percentage?
To try to change the circumstance of the child. The circumstance of the parents, it would be lovely if we could change their circumstance, but they got there for a reason.
Right.
So if we could change the circumstance of the child, I would consider that a win. And I don't like, and batting, and I do not believe in baseball. I don't believe someone who bats 256 hits 1 out of 4 times is a success.
That's a valid point. I would like to see that number changed as well, but I think when you talked about earlier that this approach isn't where that's going to happen.
Yeah.
This approach is to make sure that if you can keep people at a level, that then another approach can help them.
If you put a little bit of change to this family's approach, because what I've seen is mostly it's the single parents who are using EIC and additional child tax credit to exist. In a single parent household, you don't have the base structure and support for the child to even have a chance at school. And they are, it's rare for someone in a single parent household to get out of it. But the other side of it is they're in a single parent household. Once you're in this situation, I don't know how you change this situation.
And that's a completely different kettle of fish than earned income tax credit. In a way, that's more of a social dynamic.
Yeah,
which is a different, which we shall talk about it essentially. But I think there is definitely a lot that could be done with it, and honestly,
all right, so we've rambled on now, so we're done with this episode.